You would think that in the years I've been doing this, I'd be able to actually open these flawlessly, but it still takes me 10 minutes. Hi and welcome to Tabletop Gaming, home of not just the coolest website with the most interesting tabletop news, but also a magazine that comes out every month. You should definitely go check that out. My name is Charlie and today I'm taking a quick look at Nemo's War. Now, not only is this exciting because it's Nemo's War and I finally got my hands on it, but it is also the Ultimate Edition. So there's a lot in here, from like additional the expansions that are included to some cool new extra bits, and I want to take a look inside. I want to talk about it as this was seemingly the saviour of lockdown for so many people, being a impeccably good solo game, but you can play it for up to 5 players. Let's take a look inside. Nemo's War is a game that takes around 90 minutes to play. It's for ages 14 and over and for 1 to 5 players. It's also award winning. It's won stuff like Best Thematic Board Game and Best Solo Board Game too. Now, if you haven't guessed already, this is based on the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea book by Jules Verne. It's got Captain Nemo and all sorts of epic stuff, including the Nautilus, which is all very exciting. This is one that is incredibly exciting. There's so many people have talked about this. There's so much to see, so much to do. So I'm excited to take a look inside, and I hope you are too. Let me know in the comments if this was one that you particularly loved, either during lockdown or generally. I know this is top of the list for many people, but I want to hear about it because this could be my next favourite game, and I'm looking forward to it becoming that. Now, we started, as I've just shown, with game rules, so there's plenty in here. There is quite a lot to learn. What I like about this one is it's quite a crunchy game. There's lots of choices, lots of things you need to be aware of and consider, and ultimately it does take a couple of plays to be able to get your head around everything, but the sheer satisfaction of what you're creating and what you're doing and the sort of way that you're building it and the differences between games are what makes it worth it. Now, the thing is, that's our normal game rules. We also have here our Between Voyages guide, so a couple of extra rules to go in there as well. Now, these follow basically the same logic, the difference being, of course, that because this is the Ultimate Edition, it includes extras, it includes more expansions. So for instance, we have the Nautilus upgrade expansion, we have the Bold and Caring expansion, the Dramatis Personae expansion, and the Journey's End expansion. So everything you need to know is included within those two. Presumably you can start with one before moving on to the others. Now, this is quite a chunky box. We've got a lot in here. This is a good use of space and of money. So we have our many ships and their options here, which contribute as you sort of place these, or as you get used to seeing these and things that come up on them. You'll notice that it really changes your game. So each game feels completely different to the one that went before, and makes it sort of a tactical marvel, because you can't really just zone out and play like you have before. You've got to sort of think about it. So these will represent sort of different bits that crop up as you go through. We've also got specific tiles that relate to, I believe, the son of Nemo. So that's this guy, and he has specific tokens included too. Some of these are double-sided, some of them aren't, and we finally have the different ways, or at the bottom here, the different ways to play Nemo. Now, these vary because if you play a sort of exploratory Nemo, it's very different to one that's sort of the humanist Nemo, because your points at the end differ depending on what Nemo's goals are and then how you then play the game. If you play the game not considerate of the goals that are there, you may not do very well. Now, this is one of our larger ones. Let's get this open. This is our game board. It's big. So we're looking at probably an extra square on this sort of square size that you would expect, but covers everything that you need to know. So all of this gets very filled as you go. That's why there's so many token options, and a lot of movement options as well. So depending on how you roll, you might make gains or you may struggle as you go through. So plenty to consider, but to make things a little easier, there is also the turn sequence on there, just so that you can always refer back to what you're doing, because it's conscious. There's a fair bit in there to keep your head wrapped around. Now, let's continue. We have more tokens, so these are a little bit more similar and are specific tokens at the bottom. So sometimes these can be ways in which you are able to regain ship abilities or things like that, and those are included within those. Nice lot of bags to pop everything in, because once you've punched it, it's all a bit of a nightmare. And 2 drawstring bags as well. That is not all, of course, because there's still more to go. We have... oh, that's very cool. There's our Nautilus. Isn't it fancy? And then also we have, in this edition only I believe, our little ships that come with it. So we have a green ship and a blue ship too. Which is just nice about bringing the table to life a little bit more. It's not to say that it didn't beforehand, but it's just a nice extra. And if you're going to go for a full-on edition, it might as well have cool stuff in. So in addition to that, we have nice little gems and such. We've got different colours of those available, but those are our general loveliness. It's always nice to have something tactile. I think especially as board gamers, as tabletoppers, we like the tactile experience, and therefore having lots of little extra bits is quite nice. We've got some different markers there included, so different colours for different things. And finally, 2 sets of cards and some dice. Now, you'll know if you've played this before that a lot of this relies on rolling 2 dice and the outcome that comes with it. You're sort of betting, I guess, your resources, but you can't run out of resources, so you need to be careful. Now, there are plenty of these here. They're pretty standard D6. I imagine there's so many just due to the player count, because like I say, you can go up to 5 with this set. But a lot of the theming and a lot of the fun and involvedness comes out of these cards. These are ones that will direct your adventure. They'll give you the flavour. They'll also give you difficulty, because every time you open up the next one, something more tricky is going to happen. Now, it might be an event of some description. It might be that you're entering a new act of some kind. You have to get through a certain number in order to finish the game. But I figure there's no harm in us taking a quick look at what some of these look like, and I'll give you an idea. So we have the Runaway Reef. The year 1866 was marked by a bizarre development, an unexplained and inexplicable phenomenon that surely no one has forgotten. So this is the start of our adventures. Now that then will provide us with a test, as you can see there, but other ones will do different things. So instead this one, we have to play something, we might keep something in our next one. And I love how these look. These are in keeping with the style of the time. Like it's nicely themed, all of them, even all the way up to the attack of the giant squid. That's the sort of stuff you expect in things like this, isn't it? How marvellous. So that is a test 10. Pass and gain this, fail and do this. But just as we were crowding each other to reach the platform, 2 more arms lashed into the air, swooped onto the seaman stationed in front of Captain Nemo and carried the fellow away with irresistible violence. Oh, nice. All the way up to, event 48 is Prussia declares war. It's very nicely thematic. And with that, and with all the decisions you're making, you sort of feel like you're carrying on through a journey. I love it. Let's go on to just check what these ones are. I think we've got some more adventure cards, but we do have some different ones too that we'll just run through. So yes, we have more adventure cards. A family reunion. Captain Nemo had a son. It was palpable that all aboard the Nautilus wished for it to be true. Captain and crew interviewed Mr. Decker with compassion and henceforth changed the very tenor of our voyage. So this presumably is where the expansions start coming in, because he features as an extra. So these will likely be as part of that. So more things for you to do. You've got your finales there, the Kraken. Love a good Kraken. I won't go too much into those though, because of course I don't want to ruin things. Other cards that are included in this set are co-op roles, so officer of the deck. We've got a purser, a tactical officer, an executive officer, plenty of those to go around. And we have these ones, which are Nautilus upgrades. So importantly, as you go through, you're going to need to make sure you have the right components for your ship, but if you can upgrade them as well, bonus. So it might be things like there's a hydro drive we can add in, a strengthened prow, reinforced armour, a periscope device. Fabulous. Now each of those have a different sort of flavour to them, so a way in which they help. So that one was a war one, this is a science one, this is monstrous design. You'll see the tiny little marker at the top that just says science. So that will help propel you in terms of the sort of style of Nemo that you're playing. Crystalline sensors, how fancy. Nemo cell batteries. There's a lot to see and a lot to do, and it all themes beautifully. And I feel like that's the highlight of this, is that the theming on this is on point. Lastly, we have got our versus cards that look something like this. So we've got our Imperial notes there, and Hunt the Nautilus requires a squadron. Crush Descent requires a squadron, and Jules Verne versus Pierre-Jules Hetzel. Interesting, let's have a look. Author Verne and publisher Hetzel fought over the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea's manuscript. Verne saw Nemo as a Polish scientist hating the Russians. Hetzel saw an abolitionist. A compromised man of mystery resulted. Interesting. I'm curious in the best kind of way. Now, whilst I appreciate this unboxing only sort of gives you the very basics of a flavouring of it, for many reasons you should try this out, not least if you are a fan of Jules Verne and these sort of novels, not least if you like the sort of nautical theming and options available, but because it is beautifully themed, because it works so well as a game, because it's so immersive, it's one definitely to keep an eye on. I'm super excited to be able to play through this and to try out the different expansions that are included. I'm very much of the opinion, and Everdell cost me a lot of money on this, that if you can get everything, you totally should, because you can play one box, one set, play your normal ones, and then add in the bits that you like and that you don't from future expansions. So I love the idea of Ultimate and Collector's Editions. I don't know if you do, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, but I think this is quite an exciting thing to exist and to be on my table as well. This is going to be great. Now, of course, that is everything that is inside the box, so you have now seen the contents of it, but I want to hear about your journeys, about your adventures, how you found this, how your family have found this, how your gaming group have found this. Let me know again in the comments. I just love to talk about games, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on there. Now, if you're looking for more tabletop, you should absolutely check out both our website and our magazine. If you are a fan of board games, this is 100% where you should be looking, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.